The times are changing for pork producers around the world. The movement to switch from sow gestation crates to group housing is in full swing. The European Union, Florida, Arizona, Colorado, California, Oregon, and Maine have all banned the use of sow gestation crates, with other states considering similar reforms. Similar decisions from pork processing giants Smithfield Foods and Maple Leaf Foods may make traditional crated gestation barns like this one a thing of the past. That's what consumers want, and pork producers must meet the changing needs of their customers. To make the switch to group housing, producers need to make informed decisions. The goal of this video is to describe and demonstrate the key concepts to design a group gestation pen that works. You'll see some innovative group gestation housing designs and management techniques that are being used by Ontario pork producers. There are many benefits to group housing. It's less expensive to build than gestation crates, and group housing barns are also quiet, pleasant places to work. For these reasons and more, group gestation housing can benefit pork producers. Understanding sow behavior is key to properly designing gestation pens. A good design will minimize aggressive encounters between sows and maximize your returns. In their natural environment, sows control the size of their group. They leave or join a group based on the pros and cons of belonging to the group. One major benefit of group living is the security offered by the herd. However, if food or other resources become scarce, competition and aggression increases. This results in aggressive interactions because sows can't leave the group to avoid confrontation. It is often said that domestic sows form a hierarchy or pecking order when grouped together. This is only partially true. Sows form a dominance hierarchy when they perceive that their resources, primarily food, are limited. If a housing system is designed in such a way that competition for food, water, and preferred resting places are unnecessary or unproductive, sows won't waste energy on aggressive behavior. How a pen is structured and how feed is delivered is critical to the success of pen gestation. Separate feeding areas within a single pen can be created with the addition of partition walls at the side or in the center of the pen. Such pen complexity provides timid sows with a chance to escape aggressive encounters and discourages aggressive sows from pursuing attacks. A center dunging alley is another way to structure a pen into distinct areas for different groups of sows to eat and rest. A third method of adding structure to a pen is to increase the number of sows in the pen. In groups of 20 or more sows, the sows themselves serve as partitions and create complexity within the pen. Peak floor feeding efficiency is achieved by spreading out the feed over the entire solid floor area by using cones or Y diverters under feed drops. The appropriate amount of ration for a pen of sows should be dropped in small amounts, 3 to 8 times throughout the day. This method prevents sows from becoming overly hungry and anxious at feeding time, thus reducing the incentive for aggression. New feeding strategies and design concepts created by Ontario farmers have decreased or eliminated aggressive encounters between sows. These concepts are presented in this video through footage and interviews with producers on 4 Ontario swine farms. Producers who are preparing to renovate or build new sow gestation barns will benefit from understanding these successful designs and management strategies. Hubert and Linda Haches have a 250 sow farrow to finish operation. They converted finishing pens to group gestation, which allowed 21 square feet per sow in each pen. Their average farrowing rate is 83%, with an average of 12.6 live born per litter.
We were originally a Wiener operation with some finishing space and had only 120 sows to 125 sows. And when it came to better management and not doing it all by myself, we decided to increase the sow herd to 250 sows. We decided to, at that point, to rent a few barns, get rid of the finishing space here and turn the finishing space into sow space, and that's the only way we could get up to 250 sows. We were not allowed to build any new barns in this area here. Originally we just put the sows into just the finishing pens with 8 or 9 sows in it, and found that the sows were way too crowded and they were constantly fighting. So we took the dividing walls out of the finishing barn. We had 8 pens on each side, 16 altogether. So we took the partition walls out of every second pen to make the pens a little bit bigger. So we had then room for 16 sows, and the fighting was almost cut down to nothing. It was amazing. The finishing pen, we have 8 foot of sleds at the back and 16 feet of solid floor at the front. So we feed on the 16 feet at the front, and the 8 feet at the back are still manure of sled floor, which works very well. The pens are 14 by 24 feet wide, and we have between 16 and 18 pigs in each pen.
Hubert says he didn't spend any money converting the barn to loose housing.
We pulled the flex augers out, we pulled the feeders out, and pulled the partitions walls out, and that was it. They were all movable walls, so they were very easy to convert over, so there was no money spent on converting the barn over to a loose housing.
We asked Hubert if one pen represents 1 week's worth of farrowings.
No, since there's 18 sows in there and we only farrow 12, there's always 6 extra ones in there. It's a little bit of juggling. Then sometimes we pull all sows out together if we have enough room in the farrowing crates. We have excess farrowing crates, so it is possible. But normally we have 2 or 3 weeks leeway where we can leave them in there, leave the other ones in there.
Hubert has developed several techniques to limit aggression when sows are mixed into a pen.
When we are mixing, we are always trying to mix heavy sows and lighter sows, young and old ages together, not just old heavy sows. We put a lot of gilts in there too as they come along, so they spread it out. They know, they seem to listen to the older sows. They get out of the way and give the older sows their space. Then we put the sows and we put feed on the floor so they eat, and then we turn the lights off and leave the sows alone, so that if they're in the dark and they have something to eat, so usually then they settle into a corner, they lay down, and then they're happy.
If he pulls a sow out, he doesn't add any new sows to the group. He says that also helps to reduce aggression.
So you put one group in together at the beginning and you leave that group intact. You pull pigs out if you have to. If somebody farrows or you think somebody might farrow early, you pull that sow out, but you don't add another pig then into the pen, because they would fight. That pig that goes in has to fight 17 other sows in that pen then for space and picking order.
Hubert says he also learned that there's less aggression in larger groups.
I think you can get lost easier if you are in a big group than you are in a small group. So if you only have 8 sows, it's easy to really pick that one out that is not the strongest sow in the group. But if you have 18, that sow can disappear somewhere behind 17 others and won't be found again. So the big guy can't pick on the little guy in a bigger group as easy. When they go in, there's a little bit of challenging for space. The sows are not known to each other. There's a little bit, I would say, an hour to 2 hours maybe of a little bit of ranking. But otherwise than that, there's no injuries, no chasing for 2 days, no major fighting, there's nothing. There's a little bit of nipping in the first, I would say, first couple hours when they get put together, but no excess lameness, then nothing that I wouldn't have seen in the dry sow stalls before.
Hubert feeds his sows manually once a day.
Okay, the feed cart is filled up already from the previous day. It's sitting in the back of the barn. We turn the lights on in the morning, go in, the sows are all excited. Then I take a pail and go and feed every pen. They get 3 pails of feed, it's really thrown over the walls, and then I do the next pen and go all the way along to the front of the barn so that they're all happy. It takes about 10 minutes to feed the whole barn. They get roughly 3.5 pounds a day of feed, just thrown on the floor, spread around the both pens, and that the sows have room everywhere in the pen to eat. As long as it doesn't go into the gutter, I'm okay. If the sow gets too skinny for some reason, usually it's an illness, that there's something wrong with the stomach. Then we pull her out and put her in the gestation stall and monitor her a little bit better. But that happens very seldom. The sows seem to eat good. They all seem to get their share of food, and we are very happy with it.
He says with group housing, pens and sows need little maintenance on his farm.
We clean the pens once the pigs are out, every 3 months. The pens are clean, they're eating off the floor, so where they're eating, the pen stays clean. It's a little bit different in the summer because the manuring pattern changes a little bit, depends on the airflow where it's coldest. But it's always, and then in the summer, if there's dirt on the floor, we clean it up before we feed. But otherwise, I would say very little maintenance in that pen.
Hubert says he seldom needs to move a sow out of a pen, and when he does, it's not a problem.
If a sow gets too skinny, sometimes you have a sow that you know is not pregnant. When she starts riding other sows, then we pull that sow. She's keen then to come out, and so it's not a problem. Out of 100 sows, maybe we pull 1 or 2 sows out, but it is not a problem at all. It's usually a one-person job. 1 or 2, if there's 2, it's easier, then you can block ways where they shouldn't go, but it can be a one-person job.
He says his sows have few problems farrowing because they get lots of exercise.
When we started out with our 120 sows, everything in dry sow stalls, we were a lot of, or I should say my wife was a lot of adjusting and helping the sows farrow. There was a lot of weekends spent in the barn pulling pigs out where the sows have problems. We don't do that anymore at all. There might be the odd sow, but I would say there's no problems farrowing for the sows. The reason for the increased farrowing rate and the born alive, I contributed to the loose housing. The sows are more comfortable, a lot easier farrowing. Seems to make the difference.
Hubert says, compared to the dry stall barn where sows rattle their stalls and make a lot of noise, sows in group housing are quiet and relaxed. He says this system has other advantages too.
The sows are maybe noisy for 5 minutes in the morning when I feed them, and after that they're really quiet, they're content, they're laying down. A very easy system to look after. And with the open housing, it's very comfortable for the sows and for the labor and for the checkup too. If you walk along, you see a sow that isn't very comfortable, you can either pull her out or give her a little bit of extra feed. It helps.
We asked Hubert if there are any changes that he'd like to make to his group housing system.
If money was no object, I probably would build another barn with probably the same layout. I probably would do it on straw for this house to make it more comfortable. What I would love to do is put a coverall on that side of the barn and have this house in pens, more light, that it's more natural, not under ventilated circumstances. Would be ideal for me. What could be done is have a few more partitions. Instead of having just one wall down the middle, maybe there can be another T-wall off that middle wall, that instead of having just 2 places to eat, you would have 4 places to eat. Then the feeding would be a little bit different because you have to get it past the second wall. But to create a few more niches, if you want to, for the pigs to eat.
We asked Hubert what advice he has for other farmers who are considering group housing for their gestating sows.
If there's somebody out there who would like to switch to group housing, I think it's very beneficial for the sows. It's a very natural environment. Sow is a social animal who always would like to be with other sows. So once they establish a ranking order, there is no fighting. It's a very easy changeover to do if you have some space available. You can do it on straw, you can do it on sleds, maybe you can find other means of doing it. But and the group size of 16 to 18 sows seems to be ideal the way we experiences it. I'm very happy with the loose housing. I would certainly do it again, and I only can recommend the loose housing to other farmers.